Welcome back. So this is the second segment of our lecture on blood, and we're going to cover blood types today. If we were in class together, which I really wish we were, we would first start with a review of some things from the previous class. So at the beginning of this video, I've got a couple questions for you to work on. Okay, so the kidney makes erythropoietin, and it makes it in response to low blood oxygen. And then EPO will go and signal that red bone marrow to make more red cells, and now we can carry more oxygen. Okay. Bilirubin. Bilirubin is a product of heme breakdown. It gets picked up by the liver, put in your intestine, broken down again, and then ends up either in the urine or the feces. Oh, okay, let's go upward and onward to blood types. When we talk about blood types, we are talking about these things called antigens that live on the surface of our erythrocytes. So we discussed blood type at kind of an odd time because we haven't really learned about the immune system yet. So for right now, I'm going to give you kind of the quick and dirty definition of antigen. Okay. So for right now, an antigen is something, it's usually a protein, that our immune system recognizes. And in this case, these little proteins that the immune system recognizes are on the surface of our red blood cells. When you get your blood type, okay, you'll get something like A positive, right? So these are what we call two different antigen groups. So we have got the ABO family, and then the RH, and we often use D for RH in biology, the RH family. They're completely genetically distinct, inherited completely separately from each other. They are completely independent of one another. So the fact that you have A blood has no bearing on whether you'll be a positive or a negative. We just report them together because they're both on the surface of our erythrocytes. Okay. Why do we care so much about these? We care so much about these because of blood transfusions. Okay, and we're going to learn today how to avoid a problem with a blood transfusion. So the group of antigens that gets reported first in your blood type is what we call the ABO group. Okay. Again, these are on the surface of our red cells, so I'm going to draw them real quick. So here's 3 red cells. Let's actually do 4. Okay. So you can be type A blood, you can have type B, you can have AB, or you can have O. Okay, and all that is telling you basically the shape of the little antigen on your red cells. Okay, so let's say if we have type A blood, we have these little green triangles. Not what they look like, all right, but just for representation, those are our antigens. If we have type B, then we have these little blue ovals or blue arches. Okay. If we're AB, we have the B, the blue arches, and we've also got the A. Okay, so these are super fancy cells. O. O means nothing. O is no antigen. So there is no O antigen. If you are a type O blood, you have a naked cell. Okay. All right. D, okay, or the RH antigen. You will be reported as RH positive or RH negative. Okay. RH positive means yes, I have this D antigen. RH negative means no, I do not. All right, so here's 2 red cells. This one's positive, this one's negative. Okay. So if I am RH positive, then I have the little RH antigen. Or the D antigen, both means the same thing. But if I'm RH negative, I got nothing. Okay, so RH negative is equivalent to O. Okay, so let's take a minute, see if we can figure some of that out for ourselves. Okay, so in our little video quiz, I asked you which antigens. And I asked you which antigens on somebody with AB positive blood and on somebody with O negative blood. If this makes you upset, and it makes a lot of people upset to begin with, you just draw it out, break it down, okay? So in this person's blood type, there are A's. So I know they've got the green triangles. In this person's blood type, there are B's. So I know they have the blue arches. And in this person's blood type, there's a positive, which means they have the D antigen. This is a fancy cell. All right. Now let's go over here to this guy. Oh, so again, if you want to start off, just don't even look at the plus or minus. Start with the A, the B, or the O. Okay. This person has type O blood. Type O is not an antigen. O is nothing. So we got nothing yet. Okay, now let's look at the RH. So this is negative. This means there's no RH antigen there. This is a naked cell. So one thing I did mention earlier, what is the point of this? So the point of these antigens being on the surface of your red cells is so that your immune system can recognize cells that belong to your own body. Okay, so these proteins are a way of the red cells telling immune cells, hey, I belong here, please don't kill me. The next part of the blood type puzzle are antibodies. So antibodies have implications way beyond just blood type, but they are these Y-shaped proteins. We draw them looking like this, kind of. They are in the plasma. So antigens are on your red cells. Antibodies float around in your plasma. They are part of the immune system, and again, we have antibodies to tons of things. In the context of blood types, what we're going to be talking about for the rest of the day, we think about them as binding up the antigen on the surface of our erythrocytes. So if this is an erythrocyte, here's an antigen on it. Our little antibody is going to come in and bind to that antigen, and that'll cause some things to happen. Okay. All right, for the antibodies associated with blood type, again, in your plasma, you have antibodies that bind whatever antigen that you do not have. So if you, and we're just going to talk about ABO right now, we'll come back for RH in a minute. If you are blood type A, so here you are, okay, those are your red cells. In your plasma, you have antibodies that would bind the B antigen. We would call that antibody the anti-B because it's against B, it's going to bind it and kill it, antibody. And I just answered that question right there. Okay. So again, you've got type A blood. What antigens and antibodies are present? Okay, so antigen, you can find that by looking in your blood type, is the A antigen. Antibody, you're going to have antibodies against whatever antigen you don't have. So we would say you'd have anti-B antibodies. Where is anti-O? Okay, there is no anti-O antibody, because remember, O means nothing. Okay, so you can't have an antibody against a non-antigen. O means no antigen. All right, so let's take a minute and do one ourselves. So our example asked us about type O blood. And again, we're not hitting RH yet. Here's our cell. No antigens on the surface. So we are going to have anti-A antibodies and anti-B antibodies. Just like there's no anti-O, there's no anti-AB. Okay? AB is a blood type, which tells you that the person's blood cells have both the A and the B antigens. An antibody is going to bind to one antigen. Okay, so no anti-O antigen, no anti-AB antigen. Okay, so in the ABO blood group, people are born with those antibodies in their plasma. So if someone has blood type A, again, they're going to have anti-B antibodies. What about somebody with blood type AB? So somebody with blood type AB is okay with A and okay with B. No antibodies for the ABO blood group. Now, RH might be a different story, but we'll talk about that in a moment. And you've got a chart and an electronic form you can fill out to check your answers to your chart. So I want to let you work through type B and type O yourself. All right. So let's think about a transfusion. So because where these antigens and antibodies become important is for a transfusion. In a transfusion, we are giving someone red blood cells from another person. Okay. So first, let's talk about our recipient, Alice. Okay, so Alice needs some blood, and she is blood type A, which means she's got this A antigen. So she has anti-B antibodies. Right. Do those antibodies bind to her red cells? No, they do not. If they did, she would be killing her own cells. Okay. But she's not doing that. She's healthy. All right, so we know now here's Alice. She's got anti-B antibodies. What happens if we give her type B blood? So again, in Alice's plasma, she's got these anti-B antibodies. Okay. I'm going to give her a couple. Now let's give Alice some red cells. On those red cells, we have the B antigen. Okay. This is a really bad picture, but all my pictures are really bad. So now what's going to happen is her antibodies, her anti-B antibodies are going to bind to that antigen on the red cells. Okay, they're going to catch it. That's going to cause all those donated red cells that we gave her to try to help her to stick together in a big clump, because each antibody's got two arms and it can hold on to two cells, and so that you end up with blood cells in a big clump. Clumps of cells in your capillaries are not good. Okay, so they can actually block your capillaries and cut off blood supply to very important areas. Our other antigen, when we think about blood type, is the Rh or the D antigen. All right, so if someone is Rh negative, our blood type is Rh negative. So here's my red cell. If I'm Rh negative, I don't have that D antigen, so it's a naked cell. If I don't have that D antigen, I do not like it. If I see it, I want to attack it. So I am going to have anti-D or anti-Rh. Those are completely interchangeable antibodies. If I am Rh positive, though, so now I've got that D antigen or that Rh antigen, same thing. Not going to have any antibodies. Is I have this D antigen, I like it. I wouldn't want to attack it with antibodies because I'd be attacking my own cells. And remember, Rh negative, just like O, is nothing, and you're not going to make an antibody to no antigen. The thing about these anti-Rh antibodies that is different from the ABO blood group is that they develop after the first time you're exposed to the Rh antigen. This is more normally how an antibody would behave. So normally you are exposed to some antigen, whether that's a bacteria, a virus, something like that, and then you'll develop antibodies after the first exposure. That is also how Rh works. So if you are, and this really only applies to Rh negative people, but if you are Rh negative, you do not have anti-Rh antibodies until the first time you've been exposed to Rh positive blood, or that D antigen. How does that happen? You can get a transfusion. It also happens in Rh negative women who give birth to Rh positive babies. And that can happen if dad's Rh positive. This is different from ABO in that you are born with anti-A or anti-B antibodies. And that ABO system is different. Like normally antibodies work like the Rh for any other thing. When you are exposed to the thing, then you develop antibodies for it. Now, for our purposes, we are going to assume that anybody that's Rh negative has anti-Rh antibodies, because that is what you would do in the hospital. Because you don't know when you see this patient that needs blood, whether maybe they had a blood transfusion when they were 2 and they don't remember it, but they happen to get an Rh positive transfusion. So just to be safe, we assume any Rh negative person has anti-D antibodies. So let's practice some. And as we said, if I give you somebody that's Rh negative, just assume they have anti-Rh antibodies because that's the safe thing to do. So let's say I have blood type AB negative. So that's telling you my antigens. So I have green triangles. I got blue arches for B. Nothing in the Rh family. Okay, so no Rh. So those are my antigens. I will have antibodies to antigens that I don't have. Okay, so I've got the A antigen. I'm not going to want to form antibodies to it. I would attack myself. Got the B antigen. Not going to want to form antibodies to it. I would attack myself. But I don't have the D antigen. So the antibodies in this person's blood are going to be the anti-D or anti-Rh. Again, same thing. You can say whichever one you want. Antibodies. So now you try one. And you try this O positive person and tell me which antibodies they have. So here's our O positive person. No A's, no B's, but some RH's. So type O, I don't see any A antigen, so I have anti-A antibodies. Got anti-B antibodies. But there is some Rh, so you're not going to have any anti-D antibodies. Okay, talked about this a little bit. Why do we care? Okay. A recipient is somebody who we are giving the blood to. They need the transfusion. The donor, we are taking the donor's cells. So when we care is if the recipient's plasma has antibodies that are going to attack the donated red cells that we give them. And if that happens, those antibodies are going to grab those donated red cells, and in here we're drawing them as purple, going to do what we call agglutinate them, which is stick them together in a big clump. Big clumps of blood cells cannot make it through your tiny little blood vessels, and you just blocked blood supply to important areas in your body. You can die from that. So again, here's another kind of close-up picture of agglutination. So here we've got somebody with type A blood, and this is the donor. We're going to put these cells into somebody with type A blood, and that's fine. Okay, because this person has type A blood already, they're not going to have antibodies to it. But if we take those cells, and again, they got the A antigen, we give them to somebody who has type B blood. Somebody with type B blood is going to have anti-A antibodies, which will start sticking those cells together. There we have agglutination. Okay, so let's walk through an example. And I'm just going to break it down step by step. If you don't need to do these steps, that is fabulous. You can answer the question however you want to, but these can be tricky for people, so we're going to take it slow. No RH yet. So we've got somebody with type A blood, and she needs a transfusion. What blood types can we give her? I like to walk it through step by step. Antigen, she's type A blood, so she's got the A antigen. She has antibodies to antigens she does not have, and she does not have the B antigen. So we're going to say she's got anti-B antibodies. Where's the anti-O? There's no anti-O because O's nothing. So we cannot give her any blood with a B in it, because if we give her the B antigen, her antibodies are going to cause it to clump. Very dangerous to her. Okay, so here she is again. She's got the anti-B antibodies. So you take a moment, answer the question, and tell me which blood types can we give her? Okay, again, here is our person with type A blood, and what can we give her? Can we give her type A? We sure can, because she's not going to attack any A antigen, she's already got it. Can we give her type O? Yes, we can give her type O, because remember, O is a naked, inoffensive cell. No antibodies are going to attack it. Can we give her type B? We know that we cannot, because she's got no B in her body, but she does have anti-B antibodies. The one that trips people up is, can we give her type AB? So, yes, A is compatible with A, but remember, we've got anti-B antibodies here. They're still going to bind this B antigen. So she cannot have type AB blood. That's the one that trips people up, so just be careful with that. RH works much the same way, and again, when we ask you these questions, we're just going to assume that anybody that's RH negative, we're going to go ahead and assume they have those anti-D antibodies. All right, patient D, RH negative, he doesn't have any RH antigen on his cell, but he does therefore have the anti-RH or anti-D antibody. Can he get RH negative blood? Yeah. No, that's what he's got. But can we give him RH positive blood? No, because he has got these anti-RH antibodies. RH positive then, no anti-D antibodies. So we can give him RH negative blood, because remember, it's naked, it's fine, doesn't bother anybody. And of course, he can get RH positive blood because he does have the RH antigen. So when we're thinking through this, somebody who's RH positive can get positive blood or negative blood. If you are RH negative, it means you don't have that RH antigen. I should not put it in your body. So you can only get RH negative blood. So, putting these together, This sometimes, and again, remember they act completely separately, but we think about blood type together. You have all these antigens and antibodies together in your blood. So sometimes it goes sideways for us when we put them together. So let's walk through one. We got somebody who is B positive. What are all the possible blood types that we can give him? I always tell people, if this makes you upset, just start with the ABO. Okay, so he is blood type B. So what can we give him? Can we give him type A? No, because he's got anti-A antibodies. Right, we know he's got anti-A. Okay, so we can't give him A. We can give him type B because he's got type B blood. Can we give him AB? We cannot, again, because he's got anti-A antibodies. We can give him O. You can give anybody O, because remember, O is a naked cell. Okay, so there is our ABO taken care of. We know that we can give this person B, and we can give him O. And now we've got to go back and narrow it down by RH. So again, I just went through that on the last slide. Can we give him A, B, ABO, O? We talked about that already. So now let's look at RH. So we already know that we can give him B or we can give him O. Our patient is RH positive, which means there's no anti-RH antibodies. So can he get RH positive blood? Yes. Okay, so I would go back and say he can get B positive or O positive. Can he get RH negative blood? Remember, an RH negative just doesn't have any of that RH antigen. Anybody can get RH negative blood. So he can get B negative or he can get O negative. So in conclusion, we can give him B pos, B neg, O positive, or O negative. So some other ways to think through it. Again, look at your blood type. Blood has antibodies against letters that aren't there. Okay, so type A blood, anti-B antibodies. We've said that a bunch of times now. Always think about you can't get what you don't have. If you do not have this antigen in your body, I should not put it in you. You will attack it. We've talked about this a little bit. If you're Rh positive, you can get positive or negative blood as long as the ABO type works. Rh negative can only get negative blood because remember that Rh negative person is going to have antibodies that attack that Rh antigen if we put it in their body. All right, let's do another example. So our recipient is O positive. What are all the possible blood types we can give him? And again, I tell people, if it's bothering you, just start with the O. Pretend you don't even see the RH. Okay. So if I am type O, can I give this person A? No, because they don't have any A's. Can I give them type B? I cannot. But I can give them type O. Okay. And remember, they've got anti-A or anti-B and anti-B antibodies, not or. Okay. So now let's go back and look at our RH. So this person's Rh positive. If I'm Rh positive, I can get positive blood and I can get negative blood. Okay. So my options for an O positive recipient are O positive, O negative. Another rule, okay, you can always get there's two blood types, well, unless you're O negative, but there's two blood types you can get. You can get the same blood type. So you can, if this person's O positive, we can give them their same blood type. Or you can get O negative. O negative blood is what we call the universal donor. It's a naked cell, no antigens, nothing for anyone to attack. All right, AB negative. What are all the possible types we can give this person? Again, if you want to think through it, just throw like this. So here's this AB in the ABO blood group. We're going to ignore our RH for now. So what antibodies does this person have? In the AB group, we've got no antibodies, right? So can I give them type A? I can because they've got A's in their body. I can give them B. I can give them AB. And I can give them O, because remember, O is a naked, inoffensive cell. Nobody binds it. Okay. Let's go back now and add in our RH. Okay, this person is RH negative. I cannot put D antigen into their body. So I can only give them RH negative blood. So my blood types would be A neg, B neg, AB negative, and again, anybody can get O negative. So now let's have you do one. You've got this O negative patient. What blood types can he receive?